Welcome to the history of Egypt. From mighty pyramids and powerful pharaohs to mysterious collapses and foreign invasions, discover the epic story of ancient Egypt's rise and fall. How did a civilization last over 3,000 years, only to vanish into history? In this video, we uncover the secrets behind Egypt's unification, golden age, and ultimate decline. Meet iconic rulers like Ramses II and Cleopatra, explore lost cities, and understand what really caused the fall of one of history's greatest empires. Whether you're a history buff or just curious, this is Ancient Egypt explained like never before. Ancient Egypt stands as one of the most captivating civilizations in human history. With its grand pyramids, enigmatic hieroglyphs, powerful pharaohs, and timeless myths, Egypt continues to inspire wonder and curiosity thousands of years later. What makes it truly fascinating is how this civilization rose from simple Nile Valley settlements into a powerful empire that shaped art, science, architecture, and religion in ways still felt today. From the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza to the legendary reigns of Cleopatra and Ramses the Great, ancient Egypt offers a rich timeline of human achievement and mystery. The rise and fall of ancient Egypt is more than just a historical arc. It's a story of resilience, innovation, and transformation. People around the world are drawn to its monumental achievements and the unanswered questions that still surround its decline. What caused the eventual collapse of such an advanced society? Was it war, politics, climate change, or a combination of all three? These questions continue to intrigue historians and enthusiasts alike. Whether you're exploring ancient tombs or decoding ancient symbols, the story of ancient Egypt remains a timeless journey through the wonders of the past and the lessons it holds for the present. Rise of Ancient Egypt. The story of ancient Egypt's unification and its early development begins along the fertile banks of the Nile River, where early settlements took root over 6,000 years ago. The Nile, with its predictable flooding and rich soil, provided the perfect conditions for agriculture, which allowed communities to thrive, trade, and grow. These early settlements eventually formed two distinct regions, Upper Egypt in the south and Lower Egypt in the north. Though they shared language and culture, they were often at odds, each ruled by local kings who sought dominance. Around 3100 BCE, a powerful leader emerged to change Egypt's fate forever. Pharaoh Narmer, also known as Menes, successfully united Upper and Lower Egypt under a single rule, marking the beginning of ancient Egypt's unification. This momentous event established the foundation of one of the world's most remarkable civilizations. Narmer's unification of Egypt launched the first dynasty, the beginning of what historians refer to as the early Egyptian dynasties. He moved the capital to Memphis, strategically located at the border of the two regions, symbolizing unity and centralized power. The early dynastic period, dynasties 1 to 2, saw the development of hieroglyphic writing, formal religious practices, and the building of complex tombs. These innovations laid the groundwork for the next monumental phase in Egypt's history, Old Kingdom Egypt. Spanning from approximately 2686 BCE to 2181 BCE, the Old Kingdom Egypt is often called the Age of the Pyramids. This era witnessed a flourishing of centralized authority, monumental architecture, and technological advancement. Pharaohs during this period were not only political leaders but were also seen as divine figures, mediating between the gods and the people. This belief in divine kingship drove the construction of massive tombs and temples to honor them in the afterlife. It was during the Old Kingdom that some of Egypt's most iconic structures were built. Pharaoh Djoser, of the Third Dynasty, commissioned the Step Pyramid of Saqqara, the first pyramid ever constructed. Later, the Fourth Dynasty gave rise to the most famous pyramids of all, those at Giza, including the Great Pyramid built for Pharaoh Khufu. These pyramids were not only royal tombs but also powerful symbols of centralized control, religious devotion, and Egypt's engineering prowess. Throughout the Old Kingdom Egypt, the country experienced relative stability and prosperity. Administration was streamlined, art and culture flourished, and religious institutions gained enormous influence. However, as time passed, provincial governors, nomarchs, began gaining more autonomy, and centralized power weakened. By the end of the Sixth Dynasty, this gradual decentralization, along with environmental changes and poor Nile flooding, contributed to the Old Kingdom's decline. Still, the achievements of the early Egyptian dynasties and the legacy of ancient Egypt's unification during this era left an indelible mark on world history. From Narmer's first crown to the towering pyramids, these foundations set the stage for millennia of Egyptian culture, power, and influence. The Golden Age, Middle and New Kingdoms. The Golden Age of ancient Egypt is defined by two remarkable periods, the Middle Kingdom and the New Kingdom Egypt, when the civilization reached its peak in terms of culture, power, science, and influence. These eras not only brought prosperity and stability, but also produced some of the most legendary Egyptian pharaohs and enduring ancient Egyptian achievements. Following the collapse of the Old Kingdom and a period of fragmentation, the Middle Kingdom, c. 2050 to 1710 BCE, marked Egypt's resurgence. Under strong leadership from the 11th and 12th dynasties, Egypt was reunified, and its capital was moved to Thebes. This period saw major cultural and scientific advancements, including improvements in literature, art, mathematics, and irrigation techniques. The pharaohs centralized power again and built expansive public works, including fortresses, canals, and temples. However, the New Kingdom Egypt c. 1550 to 1070 BCE is widely considered the most powerful and prosperous period in ancient Egypt's history. Often referred to as the Empire Age, this era witnessed military dominance, international diplomacy, and cultural richness on an unprecedented scale. The New Kingdom produced some of the most iconic Egyptian pharaohs in history. One of the earliest notable rulers was Hatshepsut, one of the few and most successful female pharaohs. She led with a focus on trade rather than warfare, establishing lucrative routes with Punt and other African kingdoms. Her reign was marked by peace and monumental building projects, including her stunning mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari, an architectural marvel and lasting ancient Egyptian achievement. Following Hatshepsut, Thutmose III expanded Egypt's borders through a series of military campaigns, making Egypt a dominant empire in the ancient Near East. He's often referred to as the Napoleon of Egypt due to his strategic brilliance and numerous victories. Another transformative figure was Akhenaten, known for attempting a dramatic religious revolution by introducing monotheism centered around the sun disk Aten. His reign challenged centuries of polytheistic tradition and shifted artistic styles, though it was short-lived. After his death, the old religious order was restored. Perhaps the most famous young ruler of New Kingdom Egypt was Tutankhamun, who came to power at a young age and reversed many of Akhenaten's policies. Although his reign was brief, the discovery of his nearly intact tomb in 1922 made him a global icon and revived worldwide interest in ancient Egypt. The empire reached its zenith under Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great. His reign was marked by grand construction projects, including the temples at Abu Simbel and military victories like the Battle of Kadesh, which led to the world's first recorded peace treaty. He ruled for over 60 years and left a legacy that exemplified the power and glory of New Kingdom Egypt. These periods of brilliance were defined by architectural mastery, expanding borders, complex bureaucracy, and global influence. The ancient Egyptian achievements during the Middle and New Kingdoms laid cultural foundations that inspired civilizations for centuries to come and remain central to our fascination with Egypt's glorious past. Religious and political shifts. One of the most intriguing and controversial chapters in ancient Egypt's history involves dramatic Egyptian religion changes and political upheavals, especially during the reign of Pharaoh Akhenaten. These shifts not only challenged centuries of religious traditions, but also disrupted the political balance between the pharaohs and the powerful priesthood. For most of its history, ancient Egypt followed a rich polytheistic religion. Gods like Ra, Osiris, Isis, and Ammonius were worshipped through elaborate rituals performed by a vast and influential priesthood. Temples served not only as places of worship but also as centers of power, wealth, and political control. The priesthood in Egypt grew increasingly powerful, sometimes rivaling the pharaohs themselves in influence and resources. However, everything changed during the 18th dynasty with the rise of Akhenaten, a revolutionary ruler who introduced one of the most radical Egyptian religion changes in history. Around 1353 BCE, Akhenaten abandoned the traditional pantheon of gods and established Aten, the sun disk, as the sole deity. This marked the first known attempt at monotheism in recorded history. The worship of Aten became the new state religion, and Akhenaten built a new capital city, Akhetaten, modern-day Amarna, dedicated entirely to the sun god. This period, known as the Amarna Revolution, was a complete break from traditional religious and political structures. The temples of other gods were closed, and their priests stripped of authority. This shift severely weakened the priesthood in Egypt, as their power and economic privileges were tied to the older gods, particularly Ammonius. Akhenaten's reforms alienated the religious elite and created deep unrest within the ruling class. Politically, Akhenaten's religious reforms destabilized the kingdom. By focusing so heavily on religious transformation, he neglected Egypt's foreign policy and military responsibilities. As a result, Egypt lost control over many of its territories and diplomatic ties weakened. Internal governance suffered, and the economy declined due to disrupted religious institutions and trade. After Akhenaten's death, his son Tutankhamun, possibly influenced by powerful advisors and the priesthood, restored the traditional gods and religious practices. The temples of Ammonius and others were reopened, and the old capital at Thebes regained its status. This restoration marked the end of Aten worship and the beginning of a new balance between royal authority and religious power. Although brief, the monotheistic experiment under Akhenaten and Aten left a lasting mark on Egyptian history. It exposed the delicate relationship between religion and politics in ancient Egypt and highlighted the dangers of centralizing spiritual authority under one ruler. The swift return to polytheism showed how deeply embedded traditional beliefs and the priesthood in Egypt were in the national identity. These religious and political shifts serve as a reminder of the powerful role that belief systems played in shaping ancient Egypt's governance, unity, and legacy. They reveal a civilization constantly negotiating between divine authority and human leadership, a balance that defined the very soul of Egyptian society. Foreign invasions and decline. The fall of Egypt was not a sudden event, but rather a gradual process shaped by centuries of internal decline and repeated foreign invasions in Egypt. After millennia of dominance and cultural brilliance, Egypt's political instability, economic troubles, and weakened military left it vulnerable to external powers hungry for its wealth and strategic position in the ancient world. One of the earliest significant foreign invasions in Egypt came from the Hyksos around 1650 BCE. These Asiatic rulers entered the Nile Delta and eventually took control of Lower Egypt. Although they were later expelled by native Egyptian rulers during the rise of the new kingdom, their presence marked a turning point, proving that even the mighty Egyptian empire could be conquered. The Hyksos introduced new technologies, including horse-drawn chariots and improved weaponry, which later became integral to Egypt's military. Over the next several centuries, Egypt would face repeated threats. During the Third Intermediate and late periods, Egypt fell under the rule of several foreign empires. The Assyrians invaded in the 7th century BCE, capturing major cities and asserting dominance over the region. Not long after, the Persians conquered Egypt, incorporating it into the vast Achaemenid Empire. These successive occupations further fragmented Egypt's political unity and eroded native control. The final chapters of the fall of Egypt were written during the Hellenistic period. In 332 BCE, Alexander the Great of Macedonia entered Egypt with little resistance, and the Egyptians, weary of Persian rule, welcomed him as a liberator. He was crowned pharaoh and founded the city of Alexandria, which would later become a major center of knowledge, trade, and Greek-Egyptian culture. After Alexander's death, Egypt came under the rule of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal family that blended Hellenistic and Egyptian traditions. The last and most famous monarch of the Ptolemaic line was Cleopatra VII, a powerful and politically savvy ruler who sought to maintain Egypt's independence amid growing Roman influence. Her dramatic alliances and romances with Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony were part of a larger strategy to protect Egypt from annexation. However, this ultimately led to her downfall. In 31 BCE, Cleopatra and Antony were defeated by Octavian, later Augustus Caesar, at the Battle of Actium. A year later, after Cleopatra and Mark Antony's suicides, Egypt was officially annexed by Rome in 30 BCE, becoming a Roman province. This moment marked the definitive fall of Egypt as an independent power and the end of thousands of years of native rule. The story of Cleopatra and Rome has become symbolic of the end of ancient Egypt's sovereignty. Through centuries of foreign invasions in Egypt, the once great civilization that had ruled the ancient world was finally absorbed into a growing global empire. Yet, even in decline, Egypt's legacy endured, its temples, traditions, and treasures continuing to captivate and influence generations to come. Major causes of Egypt's decline. The fall of one of the most powerful and enduring civilizations in history didn't happen overnight. The reasons for the fall of ancient Egypt are complex and interconnected, involving a mix of internal failures and external pressures. From economic instability to weak leadership and environmental changes, multiple factors gradually eroded Egypt's strength and set the stage for its eventual downfall. One of the most critical factors in the Egyptian economy decline was the breakdown of centralized control. As regional governors or nomarchs gained more autonomy, especially during the later stages of the Old and New Kingdoms, the government struggled to collect taxes and maintain infrastructure. The loss of consistent Nile flooding, which had once sustained agriculture and ensured economic prosperity, further weakened the system. When the floods failed or were unpredictable, food shortages followed, leading to famine, social unrest, and decreased state revenue. Overexpansion also played a role in the decline. During the height of the New Kingdom, Egypt extended its territory far beyond its traditional borders, especially into Nubia and the Levant. While this brought wealth and prestige, it also strained military resources and administrative capabilities. Maintaining distant colonies required constant warfare, heavy taxation, and manpower, which exhausted the state over time. Another major reason for the fall of ancient Egypt was the repeated succession crises and weak pharaohs. While earlier rulers like Ramses II displayed strong leadership and vision, many later pharaohs lacked the charisma, military skill, or political savvy to govern effectively. Disputes over succession often led to civil wars or opened the door to foreign intervention. Dynastic instability caused frequent changes in leadership, which weakened both central authority and national morale. Environmental issues further compounded Egypt's vulnerability. The Nile River, once the reliable lifeline of the kingdom, began to experience inconsistent flooding patterns. These irregularities disrupted agricultural cycles, leading to lower crop yields and economic decline. Climate changes and regional droughts may have also contributed to widespread food insecurity and migration pressures, putting even more stress on the government and population. Lastly, Egypt's loss of military dominance made it increasingly vulnerable to foreign threats. As neighboring empires like the Hittites, Assyrians, and Persians grew stronger, Egypt found it difficult to defend its borders. Its once formidable army became outdated, underfunded, and less effective, while rival powers developed advanced weaponry and more disciplined forces. Repeated invasions and occupations weakened Egypt's ability to recover politically or economically. In the end, it wasn't just one event, but the convergence of multiple challenges that led to Egypt's fall. The combination of economic instability, overexpansion, weak pharaohs, and environmental stress created a perfect storm. These key reasons for the fall of ancient Egypt serve as a timeless reminder that even the most advanced civilizations can crumble when internal decay meets external pressure. The legacy of ancient Egypt continues to shape our modern world in countless ways. From awe-inspiring monuments to profound scientific and cultural contributions, the ancient civilization along the Nile has left an enduring mark on human history. More than 3,000 years after its peak, Egypt's influence is still felt in fields like architecture, mathematics, medicine, and modern popular culture. One of the most visible aspects of Egypt's legacy is its architecture. The pyramids of Giza, towering temples of Luxor and Karnak, and massive stone obelisks have inspired generations of architects, engineers, and artists. Elements such as columns, symmetry, and monumental scale, seen in modern government buildings and museums, can trace their origins back to Egyptian design principles. The Great Pyramid, in particular, stands as one of the most iconic structures ever built, symbolizing ancient knowledge and timeless human ambition. The Egyptian contributions to science are equally significant. Ancient Egyptian scholars made early advancements in astronomy, mathematics, engineering, and medicine. They developed a 365-day calendar based on lunar and solar cycles, and their precise understanding of geometry was essential for constructing temples and pyramids. In medicine, they practiced surgical techniques, set bones, and documented various illnesses on papyrus scrolls, many of which influenced Greek and Roman practices later on. Culturally, the legacy of ancient Egypt resonates through art, fashion, and literature. Egyptian symbols like the Eye of Horus, Ankh, scarabs, and hieroglyphs are still widely recognized and used in jewelry, tattoos, and pop culture. Films, books, and documentaries continue to portray Egyptian myths, gods, and historical figures, keeping the civilization alive in the global imagination. The rediscovery of ancient Egypt in modern archaeology sparked an explosion of interest in the 19th and 20th centuries. The discovery of the Rosetta Stone in 1799 enabled scholars to finally decipher hieroglyphics, unlocking vast amounts of historical and religious knowledge. Excavations of tombs, especially that of Tutankhamun, fascinated the world and launched Egyptology as a formal academic discipline. These discoveries provided unprecedented insight into daily life, religion, and governance in ancient times. Today, modern-day tourism plays a major role in preserving and sharing Egypt's legacy. Millions of travelers visit Egypt each year to marvel at its ancient sites, from the Sphinx and Valley of the Kings to the temples along the Nile. Museums around the world showcase Egyptian artifacts, while researchers continue to use cutting-edge technology like satellite imaging and DNA analysis to uncover new information about this remarkable civilization. The legacy of ancient Egypt is not just a chapter in a history book. It's a living thread that weaves through modern education, design, science, and spiritual thought. Its achievements remind us of the power of human ingenuity and the enduring quest to understand the world and our place in it. From the first pyramid stone laid to the latest archaeological find, ancient Egypt remains one of humanity's greatest cultural treasures. The rise and fall of ancient Egypt is one of the most captivating stories in human history. From its humble beginnings along the Nile to the construction of colossal pyramids and temples, Egypt's evolution into a cultural and scientific powerhouse shaped the ancient world. Its strong pharaohs, complex religious systems, and remarkable Egyptian contributions to science, including medicine, mathematics, and architecture, are still admired today. Yet, like all great civilizations, Egypt faced internal and external challenges that led to its decline. Economic instability, environmental shifts, weak pharaohs, and foreign invasions gradually dismantled its power and independence. These complex reasons for the fall of ancient Egypt reveal how even the most enduring empires can falter when stressed from within and without. Despite its fall, the legacy of ancient Egypt lives on. From modern-day tourism and archaeology to its influence on global culture, art, and academic study, ancient Egypt continues to fascinate the world. Its timeless wisdom and grandeur remind us of humanity's potential for greatness and innovation. Understanding the rise and fall of this iconic civilization not only deepens our appreciation of the past, but also provides valuable insights into the challenges of sustaining power and cultural identity.